Good morning, everyone. We'll just give it 1 minute until everyone joins, and then we will make a start. Okay. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our session this morning on local action, lasting impact, delivering a community-led circular economy. It's great to see so many people on the call this morning, on a nice sunny morning compared to yesterday. And it's great to see people from lots of different organisations as well. We've got a really inspiring session for you today with some great insight and experience into this topic. So looking forward to hearing from our speakers this morning. Just to introduce myself, I'm Liz Horsfield. I am a strategic advisor in the local authority support team at ReLondon. I realise that not everyone on the call may know who ReLondon is. So just to kind of tell you who we are a partnership of the Mayor of London and the 33 London boroughs who work together to improve waste and resource management in the capital and beyond, and accelerate our transition to a low carbon circular economy. We do this by helping local authorities to improve waste and recycling services, by supporting small and medium-sized businesses to adopt or scale circular business models, and through empowering and educating residents to revolutionise their relationship with stuff through campaigns. And that third strand is really what we're here to talk about today. So we believe that we will only achieve that ambition to become a low carbon circular city if we empower communities to make changes and really bring that change from the ground up. We've been working in this space for a few years, delivering projects and supporting on projects on circular neighbourhoods. One of our projects we're going to hear about in detail today. And we also work with other organisations to support in partnership, and including through our circular community neighbourhoods network. And one of our members, Greener and Cleaner Bromley, is going to be on the call today as well, telling us about their wonderful community hub. So there's a little, I'll run through the agenda quickly. So we've got Sarah Williams, my colleague from ReLondon, first of all talking about ReLondon's approach to delivering a community-led circular economy. And then we have Sarah again, who's kindly stepped in this morning to cover for Florrie from Islington, who is sadly poorly, to talk about the Cali Food Community Project and the role of local government in supporting place-based circular models. We also have Connor Cusack, who is the local economies lead from Islington, who is going to talk about that from an Islington's perspective and experience as well. And we're really grateful for him joining today. And then we have a few minutes for Q&A on those projects particularly. And then we have Parissa Wright, who is the CEO of Greener and Cleaner Bromley, talking about their community hub, and how community infrastructure can deliver environmental, social and economic value. There are also some really exciting opportunities for organisations to hear about this morning, which Parissa is going to talk us through. We have time for questions and discussions, and then we'll recap the opportunities and takeaways at the end. Just a little bit of housekeeping. Please keep yourself on mute unless you are invited to speak. Please use the Q&A for questions, And just to confirm that the recording and the slides will be available after the event. I know we've got a few people who have registered who can't join today, and we will be circulating those afterwards as well. So without me talking any further, I'm going to hand over to Sarah Williams to talk about ReLondon's approach to delivering a community-led circular economy.
Great. Hi, everyone. Great to be here today and great to see such a strong audience, 70 people with us today already. So as Liz said, I am Sarah from ReLondon and I'm going to provide a bit of strategic context and share our thinking about how and why communities can lead the transition to a low carbon circular economy and the key role that they play. So I'm going to start by speaking a little about why ReLondon are interested in community-led circular economy and circular neighbourhoods. As you will no doubt or hopefully be aware, across the world in recent times, there's been growing interest in the need for this transition to a low carbon circular economy. And I think increasing recognition that this can't be achieved by national policies alone. So this is where communities come in. We believe that change is most powerful when it happens in places or in communities, in the streets we live on, the neighbourhoods we shop in, and the local businesses we rely on. So things and places that we can all relate to there in terms of our day-to-day lives, but also our work and our job opportunities. So with London being very big and a very complex city, both in terms of its people and its governance, I think no one will disagree with that. We give thought to how circular economy and community level place-based transition fits in this global megacity that is London. Essentially, a top-down approach at such a huge scale poses us such a huge challenge. So we view this in a different way. Despite London being home to 9 million residents, it can be broken down into smaller entities. And we like to view it as not this one enormous place, but a diverse blend of towns, villages, and neighbourhoods that are all patchworked across the 33 boroughs and make up this city. So to break this down further, outside central London, over half of London's jobs are spread across 600 high streets, with 90% of Londoners living within 10 minutes of those high streets. So if cities like London are going to realise a low carbon circular transition, we believe that we need to empower these local communities and local economies at that small level to change their consumption habits and adopt more circular behaviour and lifestyles at that local level. And then connect together the local level community action, scaling bottom up to deliver this change on this large city level scale. So thinking a little bit about what we mean by a low carbon circular economy in the context of community level change. In ReLondon and in this context, we think about it as tackling behaviour change through a local place-based, community-centred approach and working with communities and understanding their needs, not delivering change to them. I think that is key and underpins a lot of the discussion today. So we also consider it as activity that drives London towards a circular economy, seeking to change if, how, what people buy, use and throw away. And that's in their roles as citizens, as employees and as business owners. And any combination of those entities can, in our view, comprise a community. We also think of the low carbon circular economy as collaborative action that is driven by primarily a key change agent. But again, that change agent can vary. It can be a community group, a community ambassador, local charity, business, local authority, or another anchor institution. And I imagine we'll have many of people from different groups within that on the call today. And I guess ultimately important to remember that this collaborative action, this low carbon circular economy transition will be driven at a local level by one change agent, one entity, but ultimately as a collaborative approach working with the community. So then thinking about what this looks like in reality, what this means. At the core of a community-led circular economy, we believe that we are working with communities, as I've said, not doing things to them, and working towards a shared goal of increasing access to affordable circular products and services, and the word affordable is key in there. And doing so to increase local opportunities for communities to access stuff and dispose of stuff in a more sustainable way. So ultimately, by that, we mean people changing to behaviours that consume less and keep stuff in life for longer. And doing this through more reuse, more repair, more sharing and recycling. And then with businesses in mind in a way that builds circularity into their operations and them collaborating with suppliers that can help them do that as well. We consider it to be activity in a physical location that intentionally leverages local assets, local infrastructure, and local relationships. And obviously, local is the word that's key there to create that desired change. And it is key that we think about that as a co-designed approach to change involving all of those key players. The aim is for this place-based activity to connect and inspire communities with this shared identity of place, rather than thinking of it as a broader generic behaviour change attempt on a citywide level. So community-led circular activity can take many different forms and naming conventions and types, some of which on this slide here, hopefully many of you will relate to. So we can be talking about circular economy hubs, circular neighbourhoods, circular communities, place-based action or place-based circular innovation, just to name a few. And as Liz said earlier, we will hear a couple of practical examples of this in practice through this session today. And what's key to remember is that every place is different, and that is ultimately London's strength and why many of us love London so much. Nowhere is the same. There is so much variety and diversity. So ultimately, that means there is no one-size-fits-all approach to this, and instead, effective place-based community-led approach is one that ultimately shapes solutions around the specific character and needs and ambitions of a given community in which we would like to work, or with which we would like to work. So then I'm going to move on and think a little bit about the why, the key drivers, the key reasons that we are encouraging more work in this space and why we work so heavily in this space. So there are a number of reasons. Delivering change in this way at a community level makes the change meaningful and relevant to the people of that place, and ultimately draws on the benefits of the connection and collaboration that a local community can offer. And the more that we can work with communities, tapping into what truly works for people and truly meets their needs, the more change we can successfully achieve. So bottom-up circular initiatives can build and offer the opportunity to build community resilience and foster long-term ownership. And obviously that longevity is key, and also contribute to wider sustainable growth. And then through empowering individuals and initiating innovation, we can strengthen communities and really foster that long-term change. So fundamentally, this approach that we're talking about today works on the basis of working at this small scale and local level, and then joining up these local successes in those small local communities across London to begin to build a citywide shift. So a little bit more of the why, but honing in on a slightly different angle on social value. So a big part of the why for many of us on the call here today is obviously the environmental impact. That's at the heart of what we do. But we are very aware that we must not overlook the additional social and economic benefits, so the social value that we can unlock for communities through this type of work. And the additional benefits beyond our primary environmental agenda are what can actually ultimately be the most engaging and motivational elements for communities or individuals. So I think if we frame that as thinking about when people truly see what's in it for them in the short term, be it saving money, improving well-being, providing skills development opportunities, or enhancing community cohesion, those types of things really can be more powerful and drive greater engagement and really act as our strongest drivers for change. So in practical terms, these circular economy initiatives can really help families save money, offering affordable goods and services through things like reuse and repair, and give people chances to learn new skills, be it from sewing or electronics repair to things like communication skills and teamwork, which in turn can boost confidence, open volunteering opportunities, employment opportunities, and the such, and therefore can really help to strengthen community connections, and as well things like tackling social isolation and build inclusion, which we'll come onto in one of our project examples today. So I think from those things you can no doubt tell that these kinds of less tangible impacts actually really matter. They improve well-being, build trust, and we like to believe that they turn places into communities that can feel vibrant and more inclusive. So through our projects, we've been exploring quantifiable impact measurement of this type of social, economic and well-being added value through the use of social value tools, which, for anyone who doesn't know, apply proxy values to these benefits, allowing us to quantify this added value. And that in itself can be really helpful for holistic project evaluation and putting those measurable impacts into business cases to help secure funding, and really reporting on the breadth of change that a given initiative may have had. But of course, despite being so valuable, the ability to quantify social value does present some limitations, and we've definitely experienced this firsthand. So I won't go through those in detail, but there can be challenges with things like the social value tools available to do this and the scope of things that are measurable. So a little bit thinking about how we go about working with a community to develop a circular initiative. We like to think about it in the form of these 4 key pillars, which can be framed into 4 key questions, and for which, as I've already alluded to, the answers will differ for all communities in all places and all initiatives. But ultimately, consideration when developing something along this nature needs to give consideration to the stimulus, so where the spark for this initiative comes from. The drivers, so why it happens, what the drivers are for bringing about a desired change. The audience, so obviously that's key. Who are we wanting to engage with? Is it a specific community or a subset within a community? And how will you engage them and co-design with them? And then finally, the 4th pillar is around the delivery model. So obviously this type of activity can be done in various ways. We can do it in a permanent approach with consistent ongoing services or facilities, or in a more kind of ad hoc pop-up nature with services that happen at regular intervals or as a one-off. That might be things like repair cafes or clothes swaps. And it also can be done in a time-bound approach, so short-term interventions that are designed to kickstart change, like a grant scheme for local businesses or a limited time repair voucher program, which aims to see longevity built in beyond the lifetime of a time-bound initiative. So these are the key factors to consider when trying to focus on developing circular place-based activity. My next slide shows that at ReLondon, we are helping to make this happen in practical terms. So we work, as Liz said at the beginning, with boroughs, with community groups, with local businesses, and other anchor institutions to bring circular living to life. And there's a few examples of our ReLondon-led work here, more on our website, but we've delivered circular neighbourhood pilots. Many of you will have heard about our Heston in the Loop circular neighbourhood programme. our circular food community in Cali, which you will hear about more later on in this session. We also have some good examples of working with local businesses and local councils through our High Streets Beyond Waste initiative, as well as a repair voucher pilot scheme for local residents. So yeah, a number of options there. As well as this, we work through, as I've mentioned earlier, small businesses through grant programs. We work with schools, empowering students through things like refill shops and clothes swaps. So a whole variety of different initiatives and innovation that we lead here in ReLondon. So my final slide is bringing together some key learnings for replication, 5 key learnings, which we hope are useful for you when thinking about replicating this type of program or project in your area and with your own communities or in your own communities. So first thing, which I have alluded to, is that what we have come to realize is that there is no such thing as trying to create a replicable model that can be dragged and dropped into different places, which is what we naively originally hoped. So against what we originally thought, we've realized that that's not feasible because communities are so unique, and therefore interventions and approaches need to be fine-tuned to suit local needs, local demographics, and work with people. So replicable learnings that follow are what we have kind of brought together instead. Local engagement and local people at the heart is absolutely key, as I've said. So really thinking about that element and the importance of co-design to understand local challenges and desires and help create solutions that meet the needs of the local people. Thinking about local leadership and community partnership and how vital that is, using trusted community organisations and community spaces and such can really help with engagement, reflect local values, and help ensure that longevity. And then the circular economy can drive community-based growth, as we've said, thinking about skills capacity, confidence, new skills, and helping feed directly back into the local economy and therefore strengthening local economic resilience. And then the final point here on my slide is around circularity's environmental goals and the importance of them aligning with those social and economic drivers. So thinking about affordability and social connection, perhaps motivating local participation more effectively than environmental messaging, and therefore being cognizant of the fact that environmental outcomes may become a secondary driver for local people, even if they remain a primary driver for us in delivering these kind of projects. And that brings me to the end of that summary.
Thank you, Sarah. Sorry, couldn't find, as you were very familiar with me, if you know me, that I couldn't find the unmute button because it moved. So thank you very much for that. I'm just going to give Sarah just a minute's break to go and have a drink of water and regroup, because she's very kindly covering the next section as well, which is one of the specific projects that she's just mentioned, the Cali Circular Food Community. Really interesting presentation. Thank you, Sarah. And it always really strikes me when I hear about this, how much of these projects are, it's all about people and not process in terms of the kind of the replicable learnings, rather than the replicable project. And I think, you know, everything that we're going to hear later is going to just reiterate that these projects are all about people and building community from the ground up. That's fascinating stuff. I think, is somebody not on mute? If you could mute yourself, that would be fab. Thank you. Okay, are you okay to?
Yeah.
So go ahead, Sarah. Right. Apologies. I will try and keep track of where my buttons are as things move around my screen when I'm sharing. But I will hand you back over to Sarah for the Cali Circular Food Community Project.
Great. So thanks for that moment to have a drink. As I said, this wasn't the plan. Unfortunately, Florrie is off sick, so I'm doing an emergency stand-in. So more of my voice, I'm afraid. But yeah, pleased to be able to, having co-delivered this with Islington, really pleased to be able to share some information about this specific project in action and some of the results. So I will start by saying that this project took place in the Cali in Islington in the Caledonian ward. Liz, if you can move on to the next slide. So a really tight-knit community in the Cali, if many of you know it, not far from King's Cross. A community made of many independent businesses, unfortunately a really deprived ward, suffering with climate risk, and so a real desire to work in this community to try and help respond to the climate crisis in a way that tackles local inequalities and to help feed into Islington's green economy plan for the Cali. So the project itself, if we move on to the next slide, was built around this idea of trying to develop a replicable model, which I've already said. The replicable model bit became replicable learnings, but ultimately to develop a program of working with a local community to develop a circular food community, embedding interventions that increase residents' consumption of low carbon food and reduce food waste. So those were the two key outcomes, thinking about that reduction in food waste and the increased consumption of low carbon food, reduced amount of meat being consumed. But as well as that, as I've already mentioned in relation to kind of the more overarching slides that I've delivered, there was a real importance around added social value, building business resilience, and in the community more broadly. I think this will pop up in a couple of different elements, Liz. If you click through, there should be three more. That's it, three more elements. So I won't go through this in detail, but you can see there that the project was informed by a range of things. And key I want to pull out was the community co-design element. And then in terms of the delivery mechanism of actually how we went about achieving this development of a circular food community, we wanted to try to do this through changing the choice architecture, through deploying a multi-interventional program of activities in the community that targeted the whole community, so citizens, local businesses, and the schools, and also through the delivery of a communications campaign as well as direct engagement through in-person events. So then at the heart of this package of interventions that was delivered in the Cali, we're very proud to speak about this surplus food cafe that was that we created and set up in an existing community centre, the Jean Stokes Community Centre. It was a surplus food cafe, so utilising surplus food from local businesses, cooking up and serving affordable low carbon food to the local community. Anyone was welcome on a pay as you like model, and it was run weekly on Fridays and run by a local community charitable organisation called the Manor Gardens Welfare Trust and a bank of local volunteers. It was a really wonderful initiative, as I've said, and as you can hopefully get a feel from some of these pictures, but essentially a 3-course restaurant style meal served on a Friday for anyone to come along and enjoy. So if we move on one more slide, that community cafe was at the heart of the project and the activity, but here we see a range of the other interventions that were delivered in the community. So a host of community growing sessions, community events, some cafe workshops, looking to upskill residents in the preparation of low carbon meals and meals using up leftovers, end of life food, preservation, etc. There was also a recipe bag initiative, which you can see top right there in the photographs, which provided residents with the ingredients to and a recipe to cook low carbon meals at home. And that was supported by hands-on demonstration workshops. There was work done with businesses, including getting local businesses signed up to Too Good To Go and offering our High Streets Beyond Waste workshops. There was training delivered with local chefs in and catering staff in schools to try and change menus and upskill those members of the community in planet-friendly meals. So yeah, it's a fantastic range of different initiatives taking place in the community. I should have said earlier on, that was over a 6-month period initially. The next slide shows us the supporting communications campaign, which I mentioned, which was built around the Jeans Cafe itself and a Jeans Cafe brand, with a focus on messaging which drove traffic to the cafe and raised the profile of new volunteering opportunities in the community with the use of real local people's faces. And as you can see here, social media and out-of-home advertising was used amongst other traditional media. And the next slide provides a few of the plethora of outcomes from the project, the impacts that were delivered. So essentially, in summary, we successfully delivered against our 4 main objectives, which, just to recap, were increasing the consumption of and/or access to this affordable low carbon food, reducing household food waste, strengthening community ties, community cohesion and wealth building, which is obviously that social value piece I mentioned earlier, and delivering environmental impact as well. So we can see a few, I won't go through everything on this slide, but we can see a few things here that really bring this to life. So there were, in this 6-month period, 892 meals served through the Jeans Cafe, feeding 726 customers from the local community, many who relied on this hugely for a great source of affordable, healthy food, which they may struggle to access otherwise, many people living in food poverty. Created 2 local jobs for people from that community, and 30 people were put into volunteer roles, which they absolutely loved. The Bank of Volunteers is just like so heartwarming. It's fantastic that ultimately is what makes this happen. We also had a community pantry, which was some surplus food donations and frozen meals from the cafe, which you can see some figures there around the statistics of those. That was also from the Jeans Stokes Community Centre. The programme, we're still working on some of these calculations, but the programme saved at least 5,500 kilograms of CO2. That's just from looking at the switch from people eating plant-based meals rather than meat and reduction in meat. We really built up connections with local businesses, from them donating food and getting involved in other activities. And then one of the big things which is nice to highlight there is the social value, which I've obviously talked about in my earlier presentation, which for this project was measured through a social value tool at just over £160,000 of social value, which is amazing to be able to report. And then there's some other measures which aren't included on the slide here from citizen surveying, which was done, but overall supports that these 4 objectives that I have mentioned. The next slide shares some wonderful feedback from both local residents and supporting partners such as the Copenhagen Street Food Bank, who supported on our recipe bag initiative and generally spreading the word about the programme of work. There's some lovely themes here around reducing inequalities and reducing food insecurity, encouraging new ways of eating sustainably and bringing people together to tackle isolation. There's so lots of fantastic quotes that really bring this project and its impact to life. And then the final slide looks at the continuity of service and that ongoing social value, which is obviously of critical importance, as I've already talked about. We don't want to go in, deliver these projects, and then walk away and leave people high and dry. So we're really pleased to announce that the cafe has secured further investment and will be continuing for another couple of years. There's more ongoing work in schools around the school menus and continuing to work to improve those. More workshops up and coming, as well as further business support offer and fantastic maintenance of those relationships. And I think really great to see that ongoing support, and the project really has attracted some political support as well, which really helps with that momentum. And I am now going to welcome Connor, who is a local economies lead and is going to just say a couple of words, again, very kindly jumping in as in Florrie's absence, to just share a little bit from Islington's perspective.
Yeah, thanks very much, Sarah. I really appreciate you going through the slides there, and it's always nice to get a reminder of what the project has achieved to date. So yeah, as Sarah said, I'm local economies manager for Islington, and really invested in this project because Sarah touched on one of the earlier slides that we did have a Cali green economy sharing for business strategy, which was funded by the GLA back in 2022, I think. And one of the key things that came out of that was a desire from the community to have a food surplus cafe, and also to try and tackle some of the food waste that we could see from local supermarkets, local businesses, and indeed local market traders, as I've also got a responsibility for street trading in Islington. Florrie, who can't be here today, apologies for that, deserves all the credit really from Islington. I've just been involved in an oversight capacity. Florrie spotted the opportunity to bid for monies from ReLondon and potentially fund the food surplus cafe, so that the idea went from a kind of demonstrator, here's what we could do in the strategy, to a project that we could actually carry through. She bid for that and we were selected as the borough partner. But one of the interesting things about this project from my perspective is the relationship with ReLondon. If I'm being honest at the start, and I have said this to ReLondon colleagues, we expected it to be a funder relationship with ourselves, but what we actually got was a genuine partnership where they were prepared to dive in and do a lot of the work alongside us, which was brilliant. So, big thanks to Sarah and Casey in particular for that. But it took a little bit of getting used to it at the start, but once it was rolling, it was a really good, genuine partnership between Borough and ReLondon. It's been a really interesting project in that it delivers, as I hope you've seen from the slides, a really broad scope of outcomes for ourselves. It's social, economic, and business benefit. I mean, as you can tell from the job title, Local Economies Manager, our primary objective is supporting local businesses and also getting businesses to kind of deliver social value for our local residents. And this project has done that really well. The food bags project, which Sarah mentioned, was to provide food for, I believe it was for families that normally would get free school meals during the summer. And so having this idea of teaching them to be able to cook these meals and then providing them with the recipe cards, really interesting recipes, tasty recipes as well, and then providing them with the goods to actually do that as well, and being able to purchase that from local businesses, local independent businesses, of course, rather than the corporates, just really helped to generate goodwill for the project, as well as hopefully deliver a lot of change and benefit for the residents that use that. Local community leadership was really key to this whole thing, and without that it would have failed from the start. We're really keen to see if we can use this model now across other areas of Islington. Islington's got a lot of wealth in it, but it's also got a lot of deprived areas, and this project has been seen to the very top of the council as a really good success The politicians have been really invested in it. Our local ward councillors have supported the project right from the start, including providing funding for the kitchen to be upgraded so that it could be used properly as a cafe. And the leader of the council, the chief executive, they've all got a good awareness of this project and what it's delivered. So it's got a great profile across the council, and probably been one of the most enjoyable projects that I've had the opportunity to work on and help deliver throughout 12 years with Islington. So that's it really. I mean, from our perspective, we think it's been a great success. The social value's been incredible, and really does show the return on investment. And the main thing is, if you go to the cafe, which anybody's welcome to do on a Friday, if you go there as I have and as Sarah has, you just see the benefit of it to the local community. And the things that the social value outcomes don't capture is that bit around community cohesion and loneliness, particularly, in large housing estates. Some of our elderly elderly residents are really benefiting from just getting to sit next to other people that they've not met before from all walks of life, and share a meal, share a conversation. It's been a great success. So yeah, thanks very much to our ReLondon partners, and very happy to answer any questions that I can, although I'm not as close to the detail as Florrie, so apologies if I do have to take away any more technical questions and come back to you on those. Thank you. Liz, back to you.
Thank you, Connor and Sarah, both of you for great presentation and insights there. It's really interesting. I went down to the Cali before it opened, and I have heard from other colleagues just how wonderful the cafe is. So yeah, it would heartily recommend going down there. We've just got a couple of minutes for questions before we move on to Larissa's presentation. There's a couple around funding in particular. So what funding or grants are available for the projects, and what is the source of funding for the ongoing implementation? I don't know if Connor, you want to answer the ongoing
sure
one.
Yeah, so the ongoing one was what was the name of it? Sarah, if you can help me out at all. It was
an internal tackling poverty fund, if I
Tackling
remember
Poverty
correctly.
Fund. Yeah, that's right. And in addition to the ReLondon funding, which they in turn received the money from CNCA, we also had some UK shared prosperity funding, which we used. The ward councillors have contributed as well to the fit out of the kitchen, which was quite expensive. I didn't realise a kitchen could cost quite so much. So yeah, it's been various pots, but the continuation funding is tackling poverty money, and that just goes to prove that within the council that the profile is such that the tackling poverty team actually reached out to us and said, we've heard good things. We'd love to talk about refunding this for another defined period. So that's brilliant.
Yeah, and I think if I can chip in, it's so interesting and positive to hear that. Obviously, we came about this from, as Connor said, it was funding that we secured from the CNCA as a global funder, the Carbon Neutral Cities Alliance, and so it was very much through an environmental lens that we wanted to deliver this project, but the reality is that it's delivered such strong social value that the continuation of it is all through the Tackling Poverty Fund, which I think speaks for itself in terms of those, like the breadth of successes that the project has delivered.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that definitely kind of speaks to the wider benefits of these projects as well. Brilliant, thank you. There are a couple of other questions around Spark that started the projects and key change agents. I'm actually going to save those until after Parissa's presentation as well, because I think probably everyone has got something to say on those. So I am going to hand over to our third speaker, who's Parissa Wright from Greener and Cleaner Bromley. As a Bromley resident, I've had the privilege of watching Greener and Cleaner grow from its start. So I know that you're going to be really inspired by this story. I will hand over to Parissa now and move the slides on for you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Liz. Yes, that would be amazing. Thank you. And there we go. There's my details. And I'm also going to put in the chat my email and the link to the expression of interest form, which I will come to at the end of this talk, but just in case people's QR code readers aren't working. My name is Parissa Wright. I'm the founder of Greener and Cleaner. I'm also the Chief Vision and Partnerships Officer. We have a new, well, not even new, a year in amazing CEO, Claire Searle, who isn't able to join us today, but I tend to do the talking about the project because, well, you know, it's something I love to do. And obviously I set it up and I've been with it all this journey. And now these next steps I'm very, very heavily involved with. So next slide, please. We start, this is the community hub. Sorry for the weird formatting, but this is what we're going to sort of talk about, and this is where we are now. It's in a mainstream setting in a popular shopping centre called the Glades in southeast London. It is basically very purposefully opposite the public toilets, because we know that the people who have got children, who've got health vulnerabilities, who are older, need to know that they feel confident there are toilets nearby. It's very accessible both by public transport and also for parking and lifts, etc. And it is next door to a McDonald's, much for the same reasons the McDonald's chooses to be near bus stops, to ensure that we're reaching beyond, let's say, the usual customers. It's open 5 days a week, and each year greets over 12,000 visitors. And basically it's for everybody. So we don't, while we have 1 or 2 projects or events that are focused on particular groups with particular vulnerabilities, generally the focus is on bringing people with different needs and vulnerabilities and backgrounds together in different events and sessions and programs and offerings in this space, and also out in our events and pop-up events in the community. Next slide, please. That launched in 2022, and it's still going 5 days a week, but this is where we started. We started in March 2019, following, there's a little photo from 2018, following the school climate strikes of 2018, where a number of local people in southeast London, from Bromley, from Lewisham, from Croydon, from Greenwich, started coming together in a pub in my local area of Shortlands. Essentially, I started off on maternity leave going, what are we going to do about this in 2018? And at the beginning of 2019, shared an A to Z of recycling and donation out into different Facebook groups and different sort of WhatsApp groups and things. And suddenly there were 10 to 30 of us meeting above a pub, and every month putting on some sort of event in our community, whether it was sewing, whether it was growing, whether it was quizzing the recycling team, but essentially helping local residents feel that they could engage in sustainability and drive change, even if they weren't seeing it happening, whether it was due to budgets or due to politics of local government or national government. So we just didn't feel helpless anymore, and we knew that we could do something on the environment, but we knew we could also help different local issues that we were seeing. Next slide, please. So who are we? Well, you know, we've just sort of covered that. I'll just let you briefly look at this. Essentially started up in 2019 as a community group, became a CIC within about 3 months, because our events were attracting, you know, sort of tens and hundreds of people, but also online we had thousands of people involved. And then in 2021 became a registered charity, managed to get some seed funding to launch a pilot for a mainstream 5-day-a-week community hub, leveraging a vacant unit of a shopping centre, so that we could do that for the communities, not only in Bromley, but also there are visitors, staff and users who are from Greenwich, Lewisham and Croydon boroughs, and we do some pop-up events with schools, etc., in those areas as well, but also so that we could really meet the needs locally and in southeast London around employability, around loneliness, around mental health, around sort of cost of living, really. And so we wanted to do this project, use it as a living lab, have collaborated with different universities and research organisations. And the idea is to create a template Not that people replicate exactly, but yes, they can use it franchise style, a templates package, but also that they can take elements of to strengthen what they're already doing or to create their own version of some sort of permanent space potentially, or not have a permanent space, but strengthen what they're doing in terms of reach, in terms of resilience of funding, and in terms of that balance between volunteers and staffing and the diversity of those volunteers and staff, as well as the beneficiaries who are the regular participants and the volunteers. Right, next slide, please. I'm going to talk fast because I haven't got long. But please put any questions as you think of them in the chat, and that will help us remember to come to them at the end. So what is this hub about? It is new because it's not just focusing on one area of sustainability, it's 360 on sustainability. So people can come and volunteer or come and find out about or engage with whatever they're passionate about, whatever they're worried about, and come together in this space to create the solutions that they want to see in their community and run those services or projects or collaborate on them. It's also 360 in terms of meeting all different community needs in terms of social, economic need, well-being need, loneliness need, etc. And it's hub and spokes. So you've got the hub, which is in the community hub, and then you've got the spokes, which are the pop-up events, programs and services which are out in the community. That can be a regular community repair cafe, that could be a community allotment garden, but that could also be a project with a school, or a clinic at a food bank, or an energy efficiency sort of one-to-one day at, you know, a hospital or a food bank, etc., etc. So there's in the hub, and then there's out in the community, both ad hoc and regular. Next slide, please. So this really gives a really good taste, and I think this is much more exciting than me speaking. So if Liz will play this video, you can see kind of what we're doing and the space. We can totally do this. Oh, no sound. Okay. Can anyone else hear the sound? Because if we can't hear the sound, then I might need to try and just share my screen and play a video.
Liz, I wonder whether if you unmute, the sound might work.
Ah, okay. Let me just try that. And if not, we'll go to plan B. Does that work? Could you hear that?
No, we can't.
No, right, okay. Let me try one more thing. Apologies. We have tried this so many times today.
I can always share my screen with the video if that's easier.
There we go. Let me just reshare that again.
So
that worked?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Fabulous. Take two, everyone. Apologies.
I really love coming to the hub.
I just live for Mondays to come here.
I came into the hub for an energy efficiency clinic, and I picked up a few tips, and now we're saving a bit of cash at home and also saving some energy, which is good.
So we have got 39 laptops that have been donated today, lots of phones, and bags and boxes of cables.
I heard about the hub through various mental health support groups. It's a wonderful place to come. It's probably the one thing that saves me from absolute despair in my life.
Since 2019, Greener and Cleaner has been going, but in 2022 we set up our pilot community hub here in the Glade Shopping Centre in Bromley, and it's been open 5 days a week since then for the last 3.5 years, and well over 30,000 people have come through these doors. On top of that, we've been doing pop-up events out in hospitals, in universities, in schools, in parks all over South East London, and these have been inspired by what people have said they want and they need and what they care about for their local environment, for their well-being and building community resilience.
Greener and Cleaner did an energy saving visit to you a few months ago, and we advised you to switch your tariff to a fixed tariff.
Which I did. I can phone John at any time of the day and he'll always help me.
I know and love what we do in here, and it gives me energy every time I come through the doors. It became very clear as soon as I got engaged with people in Greener and Cleaner that this was a community I could become a part of, that it would become something more than work.
Once you start looking for litter, it's very therapeutic, but it's great to do it as a social activity as well. I think there's a lot of people who want to get involved, who want to do more. Picking up litter like this is hope, because looks like everyone else has given up, but actually we need to bring power really back into the community. It is an uphill challenge. Well done, good job.
I rented an SDS hammer drill from the Library of Things here in Glades in Bromley, and it was easy to pick up and collect. I can just come to the kiosk here, tap a few buttons, and I've got my drill. And I've learned today about some of the other things the hub does, like the community sewing machine. But I think it's really, really good that people can learn these things at little to no cost as well, and they're skills for life that they can pass on.
Carol initially brought us the sewing box at the Beckenham Repair Cafe, and it's been such a joy to see it restored, and it just looks so lovely, and it's so nice to hear the history of it and know that we've restored something that's so loved.
I think they've done it very well indeed, don't you? I'm very impressed with their skills.
I saw that there's a mending clinic, and the dress that I brought in today, I need to do some repairs on it. The staff, the volunteers, they're very, very helpful. It has helped me to learn some few things on how to do the things myself as well.
Another thing that we've grown over the past 12 months is our community allotment and garden, where we're teaching each other amazing food growing skills, where we're learning about creating habitats for local wildlife, and it's wonderful seeing all the generations and cultures coming together.
Oh, you're gonna put your little hat in here? Oh, yeah! We got a lick.
We've also developed an amazing new offering for 18 to 25-year-olds called Connect the Buds.
It's quite hard meeting people in real life. It can be a space to come and learn a skill or do a workshop, have a cup of tea, learn something new. We don't have a lot of those kinds of places anymore.
I think the vision for Greener and Cleaner is that every community across the UK should have access to a space that feels like it's owned by them and that is invested in the future of this planet and those communities that they're serving. We're trying to demonstrate through doing it in our space what's worked and what hasn't worked, so that other communities can set up, and the blueprint is our contribution. We've recently opened a support service for micro-sized businesses in the borough who want to be more ethical, more sustainable. We designed that because businesses were telling us that they couldn't get any help. Across South London, we're already networking with incredible groups on how do we do things together. Everybody has something that they can grab hold of and make a difference with, and if we are all doing that all of the time, we will get to where we actually need to be.
It makes my week. I look forward to it all the time.
Brilliant, thank you so much. If we can go on to, there we go. Okay, so we've touched on this 360 sustainability, 360 on community needs. We all know what this means. It's helping people get jobs, it's helping people connect with their mental health. It's building the resilience and the adaptability of our communities in these times where we are dealing with a polycrisis, and there are more down the line. You know, we're dealing with a mental health crisis, the NHS crisis, the employment crisis, the cost of living crisis, the climate crisis, the biodiversity crisis, and God forbid, you know, there's international, you know, political issues going on affecting food prices. There's pandemics, you know, coming down the line. These sorts of spaces enable people to connect, enable people who are isolated or vulnerable to connect, enable people to get the skills they need to be more independent, be more resilient, and sort of basically normalizes community engagement and community collaboration, and people can see people that look like them in that space and out in these projects and events out all over these communities, and they can see that despite the divisiveness that has been pushed in the media and in social media, actually the reality is people of all shapes and colours and sizes and ages are coming together to solve their local communities' problems together, and it's visible, they can see it. Next slide, please. There we go. One of the things that really is important is regularity and reliability. It was really important to us that not only were we not, and it's not always easy to avoid, but not only were we not in a library or a back of a church hall or back of City Central, somewhere that was niche, but also that when people came to the shop unit, that it was open and that they could rely on it being open 5 days a week, and that there were always some weekdays and there were always the weekends where they could go in, and they know it's 10 till 6. And they know also, not only is it going to be open, but there's going to be a good quality of advice there. There's going to be a space they can sit down. There's going to be certain minimums there daily. Then there's going to be certain events that happen regularly, weekly, on specific days and times. Then monthly, there's going to be regular things, and annually. And then out in the community, there are things that are weekly, things that are monthly, and things that are annually. Next slide, please. And it has made a huge difference in terms of people engaging much wider and much more beyond the people who initially were engaging with us when we were just online and doing pop-up events. A hub and spokes model, so we've talked about that. We've got the community hub, and then our spokes are the community allotment garden, where we're teaching about biodiversity friendly food growing. We're giving space to people who often don't have space to grow food. It's an opportunity to be out in nature. We have people there through social prescription as well, because it's great for mental health and physical health. It's great for social skills, but also we're teaching people about habitat creation and what they can do, not only in their, community buildings and grounds and schools and homes, but also how they can use their voices with their local councillors, with their local residents associations and schools and churches to transform the way our green spaces are used and how wildlife is benefiting from them. Then there's the projects, events and collaborations out with the schools, the food banks, the parks, the residents associations and charities that represent different climate vulnerable groups. And then there are things like multiple repair cafes in lots of different locations, and we're trying to grow those all the time. Next slide, please. And then volunteering. People come to volunteer with us for a range of different reasons, from connecting with others to employability to language skills to climate action and not feeling so hopeless and helpless. But they also, as you said, lend an ear to people, can have a cup of tea, but also give that more in-depth advice if people want that. And we've designed carbon literacy training that gives people a basic grounding. And then there are different people who have particular interest or expertise in different areas. And we have also trained up a cadre of energy champions who know both the technical and the financial side on energy and can give that advice, which is wonderful. Next slide, please. And then what we do is all co-designed and co-delivered with our community. So it's not about telling people what they want. First of all, our charity is made up of all the local people. Our staff and our volunteers is all local people who just want to make a difference. Secondly, we do community co-design and getting in feedback and feedback loops in lots of different ways, which are set out here. And I'm really happy for these slides to be shared afterwards just to save time. But it does include academic collaborations, research collaborations, as well as speaking to our users and different community groups and local community stakeholders representing the vulnerable. Next slide, please. And then one of the things that we're trying to do is bring people on a journey to deal with their biggest emission in their home and in their community, which is energy. Many people come in, over 50% of people come into this space for a non-environmental reason or non-sustainability reason. They'll come in for their mental health, they'll come in for loneliness, they'll come in because it's a cheap way to learn how to sew or how to grow food, or for their kids to do an activity for free. But then they'll come on this journey with us. And as you'll see later, the research we've done with CAST shows how much of a journey they come on. Essentially, there's lots of offerings we do around energy and collaborations we do around energy. And again, you'll have the slides. But for me, it's really important that people can come in for any area of socio-economic or wellbeing need and any area of sustainability. But gradually, through trust and a sort of process, they gradually come on that journey to looking at hard-hitting things really around the environment, like energy, like transport, like food. But energy being a big one for us and for many people, especially in a cost of living crisis. Next slide, please. As we know, we presented on this at Civil Service Live in July last year, both days in London, certainly. And, the reason is that trust in government is very low, trust in sustainability is very low, and there's been very ineffective engagement to date. And not on top of that, we're trying to deal with culture wars and toxification of language. It is a nightmare. But trusted messengers and these sorts of community projects led by the community for the community you know, and able to adapt to all different needs of the community, whether that's an influx of refugees, whether that is a particular group that are struggling with employment, whether that is an air pollution issue, whether that is a traffic issue, whatever it is. You know, that adaptability is really important, and the fact that it is delivered by trusted messengers that are local people, and that is in a mainstream setting, which is not stigmatized necessarily being attached to poverty or being attached to health issues or one demographic or another, that it brings the community together, so that they see each other and they can hear from each other about what these changes are. And also it's sort of something that bursts that social media nightmare bubble that is causing so much divisiveness in our communities. Next slide, please. So yeah, we're going to quickly run through these, but basically we're normalizing engagement with community and normalizing engagement with sustainability by reframing sustainability, making it relatable, using the concepts and language that we know that people care about and can connect with rather than put them off, and really addressing community needs and mainstreaming these conversations. Again, it's peer-to-peer, people sharing their skills and their knowledge in their communities, and I think that's really important. We already have this skills and knowledge within our community. Whether people call it sustainability or not, it's kind of irrelevant. We've got to remind people that it's part of our heritage and that actually everyone is doing something to do with sustainability, whether they realize it or not, and celebrating that and enabling those people to feel proud of that and share that with other people. And sort of, yeah, basically normalizing it. Next slide, please. And again, how it builds trust is we can answer questions and clarify new policy, new funding, new infrastructure, new technology in a way that government and local councils simply can't on their own. We can have one-to-one conversations with visitors, you know, local person to local person, and people can raise questions, concerns, and even express net zero, you know, or, you know, ULEZ skeptic, whatever, views without feeling attacked. And at the same time, not only can they feel heard and have an opportunity to ask the questions and get out of all the confusion of the online mess, but they can also hear us tailoring our advice and our response to them appropriate to their needs and their situation, but also really clearly setting out the day-to-day benefits for them, their family, in their homes, and also, if possible, in their school, in their community, just so they can see how these changes and these opportunities can really benefit them, even though they may come across as detrimental in some ways initially, or in how they've been expressed in the media. Next slide, please. Oh dear, I think we're having some trouble changing the slides. So this is basically, I'm going to talk even faster, but it's going to all be sent over to you guys. But essentially, we've done research with Cast and Bath University, which has showed that, you know, large swathes of our users have reduced their energy use, even though many of them, arguably definitely over 50% of them have come in initially not for energy, not for transport, not for reducing consumption, but all of these stats show that it has had a serious impact on people's lives, which is amazing. Next slide, please. And we know that these impacts have had an enormous effect on creating thriving spaces, certainly in terms of the community hub and the allotment garden. In terms of providing a practical space for people to come together and collaborate and increase civic engagement, knowing, you know, what public consultations are out there and how it might affect them and what they can do about it, how they can use their voices. It enables local people to come together and design and deliver the events and services and solutions that they want to see, meeting all of those needs in a sort of intersectional way. It's always through the lens of sustainability. There's always some element of sustainability, and that includes everything from the natural world to waste to energy to transport. There's always going to be some element of that, but focused on, you know, a need which might be around mental health, or it might be around employability, or it might be around young people learning social skills and getting confident interacting with each other, because that's something we've heard from our community that they want. It's all led by what the community have said they want. And we know it reduces pressures on public services, because people have told us that instead of going to the GP, because I was feeling a bit anxious and alone, I've come here, or instead of going to A&E, or this has helped me. You know, we've helped people tailor volunteering opportunities or offerings to be able to get back into work. You know, we've helped schools deliver things around climate action plans or sustainability teaching and opportunities for their children, volunteering, etc., for their kids. And it brings people back into the town centre, providing a safe and reliable, warm space. And all of these things and more really are meeting the targets and the missions of both government and local government. Next slide, please. So what are the opportunities? There's 3 key opportunities that I can tell you about, and then I'll sort of touch on at the end, and I'm going to stick my expression of interest form in the chat again as well. But essentially there's 3 things. One, we've been lucky enough to get some funding from Esme Fairbairn to create a blueprints package for this community hub approach, which means that we'll be creating a package that will be available sometime next year, but that people can use either franchise style or take elements out of, because there are lots of common challenges, whether that's diversifying funding streams, diversifying volunteers and participants and staff, whether that is the balance between staffing and volunteers. There's lots of common challenges, and there's lots of things we've tested out or elements that we have worked on, which we'll be trying to create templates, lesson plans, blueprints, you know, example slides, etc., that people could just take and strengthen what they're already doing, because this isn't the only way of doing it, and different communities will have different needs. But also we have got funded one-to-one sessions for those community groups and potentially even council officers to have one-to-one sessions with us around exploring the opportunity for either setting up a community hub or some other permanent space. So that is something that you can tick in the expression of interest form and we'll come back to you, or you can share, you know, these slides in the expression of interest form with the community groups or charities that you're working with at the grassroots, or both. And then what we'll do is we'll have an initial one-to-one session free for people, and then for about, we've got about, I think 50 groups already signed up, but we've got up to about 80, 100 spaces. Then we'll, with 20 of them, we'll do 2 or 3, and then with 4 of those groups, we'll do much more in-depth work and try and help them get further along the line to setting up their own community hub or similar. So that's the one-to-ones you can sign up for. You can sign up to hear about when the blueprints package is available to, as I said, use franchise style cherry pick from. And finally, we're setting up, with help from funders, a community sustainability support network for England, which means that if you're a grassroots community group, charity or social enterprise working on any element of this community sustainability, you can get access for free to a network where you can all between you share your case studies, your templates, your resources, but also you can share opportunities to collaborate on funding bids, on research projects, on delivery, on campaigns. And we will host monthly meetings around a community of practice and signposting those opportunities. And we'll have an online space where members can access all those resources and share member profiles. And also we will have expert allies, such as people like ReLondon, Circular Communities Scotland, Ashton, many different, you know, Eden Project, who will share, and Transition Towns, who will share their handbooks and their guidelines and their templates and their case studies and their opportunities for funding, etc. But they will be allies, so they will be shared. Those links will be shared with the members. They won't be coming into the meetings. And then finally, we'll have individual allies and experts who might be council officers or civil servants or placemaking people who can be involved. So those people can also be involved as not as members, but as official allies, and therefore be linked into people and have access to things like maps of our members and be put in touch with people through the chair and the coordinator. So I'm going to just share the link there, but if we go on to the next page or next slide. There you go. So basically that again summarizes what that network is going to do. The final thing it will do, which we're applying for funding for separately, is to do some research around what the impacts and the challenges and the opportunities are being identified by grassroots organisations on the ground and what they want to ask of policymakers in government, and creating a policymakers report for government and creating one for funders, so that funders and government can both leverage the work that's being done on the ground, but really support it and try and help remove some of those blockers. Next slide, please. And then finally, there you go. So whether you're interested in advice on community sustainability hubs or similar permanent spaces in a one-to-one, whether you want to just know when the community hubs blueprinting package is available, or whether you want to sign up or find out more about the Community Sustainability Support Network for England. It's for England because there is something similar for Ireland, Northern Ireland and Scotland as a region, but there's nothing similar for England at the moment. Or whether you want to get involved in the research, feedback to policymakers, please do scan that QR code, sign up on our expression of interest form. We've got lots of different council officers and civil servants who've got involved in expressing interest there as well as placemaking organisations, urban designers, and of course the community groups, charities and social enterprises on the ground delivering this work alongside them. So please do fill in our EOI, and I'll touch on it again at the end, but it's also in the chat in form of a link if that's easier, as well as my email. Thank you. I'll go on mute so Liz can see if there's anything. Oh, actually, you're going to lead the questions now, aren't you? So I'll just go on mute and people can raise their questions.
Thank you, Parissa. Yeah, amazing presentation. A staggering amount of stuff going on and achievements. It's always, yeah, brilliant. And the video is just such a great representation of everything that's going on there. So we do have some questions for all the panelists actually. So if Sarah and Connor, you would be okay to turn your cameras back on as well. I'm going to stop sharing for a minute because it's much nicer to be able to see faces and questions at the same time. So yeah, we've got quite a few questions. I'm going to start with you, Parissa. How did you get started with Greener and Cleaner in terms of funding, paying for location and the staffing? Because there's a group in Hackney that have been talking about setting up something similar, but limited by jobs and other volunteering commitments. So how did you get started?
So when for the first 3 years while we were doing our stuff in the community, probably like that, everyone was volunteers, everyone was already had a day job, etc., etc. When we managed to get some seed funding from Bays to use this to create a pilot, and we used that for the first year or so in terms of converting a space and having a little bit of staffing. What we realised at the beginning was, though 80 people had said that they would volunteer and staff it 5 days a week, when push came to shove, we had to pay for at least a member of staff to be in the hub at all times, because you couldn't rely on volunteers. And so that was really important. With regards to funding the space itself, I mean, my background is I was a lawyer and in business affairs for 20 years. There's very good commercial reasons why a landlord of multiple units, especially a shopping centre or a council, would want to give access to a space for free like this. So there are multiple empty shop units everywhere, including in shopping centres, and business rates are paid on those, but also often the people who have invested into those shopping centres or those units, let's say it's a council or let's say it's a pension investment fund, then they need to show what they've done on sustainability, what they've done on community, and this ticks a lot of those boxes. So it provides experiential offerings for those spaces, so people are coming in because we know more and more people are shopping online. You don't have to pay business rates because the charity is in there, and also it addresses a lot of the needs that people need to show for their business. So essentially, we managed to get access to the space for free. And after initially being asked to pay the service charge, we got access to support for the service charge from the landlords as well. So I'm a lawyer by training, and I'd say there's a very good argument to be made on multiple levels, also morally, also actually caring about your community, as to why the space should be offered for free. But don't ever anyone think that it's as easy as space, because it is not. If it's only space that you've got sorted, you absolutely need funding for staffing and to support volunteers. Otherwise, you just end up with, no offence, the same usual suspects, a small group of white middle class people who might be retired or privileged enough not to have a job, who are running the whole thing. And that's great, but that does not reach diverse communities, that does not meet their needs. But also those people burn out. So, funding is important to have some sort of basic level of staffing, both in the hub to organise some regular events and run them, even though a lot of our events are run by volunteers, and also in the back end to make sure that everything is okay and make sure the well-being of the team. But as a minimum, you need at least 1 or 2 people who are there when that space is open, even if it's only a 1 day a week space. You need somebody who's there. You can't rely on volunteers. It's not reasonable. It's not ethical, really.
Thanks. Yeah, that's really interesting. I think, yeah, really.
I was going to say the hope is from
volunteers to make that commitment, isn't it? I was just going to come on to a question because I'm aware that Maya asked a question right at the start that I said we would come back to, which I'm going to put to Sarah initially, and then others are welcome to join in. So do you think that one key change agent is responsible for the positive outcomes, or is it more the combined efforts of several of these?
Thanks, Liz. Yes, a fair question. I think that from my perspective, there often needs to be, and this is kind of how I try to present this, is there needs to be some kind of ultimate, like, primary driving force, and then it needs to be a collective effort thereafter. So yes, and lots of players, but I think often there can be kind of, I mean, it can be more and a group, but I think, you know, there's often one initial seed from one driving force.
And there's a very similar question from Bob around what was the spark that started the projects that we've heard about. So Heston in the Loop, the Cali, Greener Cleaner, what would be the thing that started those initially? Is it one person? Is it a group of people? Connor, I don't know if you've got thoughts on that from the Cali point of view. Where did that initially come from?
I think it came from the We Are Cali plan, which was a really different way of looking at how we work with our resident community. It was a pilot which involved a lot of consultation, so a lot of hearing from residents about what they'd really like. That then set off a chain of events, such as the bidding for future neighbourhood funding, which we didn't get, but we then got the pipeline funding. So we wrote the Cali Green Economy strategy, and once we had that, that was a really good lever to go and do lots of the things that were listed in there. And it had already had a kind of exec member mandate and a public mandate, and then some funding to go along with it. So it was, the initial thing was hearing from the residents, and then that set off a chain of events that led to us being able to do the cafe and all the work that we did alongside ReLondon.
I'll chip in as well to say, yeah, I obviously agree with that entirely. And I think in relation to Heston in the Loop, which we haven't spoken about today, but there's some links in the presentation to report on that for anyone who hasn't heard. But yeah, really similar in that regard. So kind of council ambition, council strategy, us wanting to deliver a demonstrator and kind of try and test what does and doesn't work and find learnings to share with others so that it can be scaled. And yeah, and then like real kind of engagement and community buy-in. And I think that together has kind of really made these things happen.
Thank you. Carissa, I wonder if you've got a slightly different answer to that.
I guess ours was sort of like, it came up from the community in terms of, I was concerned, you know, basically the school climate strikes had a few people locally up in arms, and often parents and grandparents. And I guess there was nothing, it felt like nothing was happening at national level. It felt like nothing was happening at local level. There was knowledge that ideologically there was some problems with the council believing in climate change or air pollution, etc. So that was very difficult, and I think people felt held for ransom, which is why a lot of people ended up just coming together to try and do something above a pub and out in their community and then grow it. So it grew over time, but it was, the first 3 years showed us that we weren't reaching everybody, that we knew was interested from talking to them when we did talk to them. And so by having a community space, we knew that being able to pilot that would mean that we'd be able to reach more people. And it massively changed that. I mean, the demographics of the people who are regulars at the community hub are much, much more diverse along vulnerability, along ethnicity, along English as a second language education than the borough that it's actually set in. Like large swathes of our they come from all over, not only this borough, but other boroughs as well. So it's basically grown, and I think reacting to what local people want and being able to have a few people who've essentially given up a lot of time and now their careers, or at least, you know, given up significant amounts of their working week now to help run it and grow it has been really important. And that those people represent the people that they're creating stuff for is really important.
Right. So, I mean, it's, in terms of spark could be anywhere. It's those people finding each other and making that spark happen, whether it's, Great. I know I'm very conscious of time, and we have a couple more slides to look through just to make sure that people are aware of the takeaways and the opportunities. I've got one very quick question for Connor, and then if it's okay with the panelists, the other questions that we haven't got to, I will ask you to just do a very quick written response, and we'll circulate those with the slides as well. But Connor, are there any plans for the cafe to open on more days per week?
At present, no, just due to funding constraints. The amount of funding we've got works with the cafe being able to run for another 2 years, but only with the 1 day a week model. However, that can change if more funding becomes available. But at present, no. That's kind of deemed the best value for money and for longevity. But thank you for the question. I can see the benefit in having it open longer if we could.
Okay, great, thank you. So I am going to say thank yous now. So thank you very much to all of the speakers and everyone for joining today and for your questions. We will circulate the recording and the slides afterwards. In the couple of minutes we've got left, we've just got a couple of reminder slides for you to sort of take away the resources and the opportunities available. So I'm just going to share again for a second and let Sarah, first of all, talk to that, and then Parissa as a final reminder of the new opportunities there. So
thanks, Liz. While it comes up, oh, there we go. Yep, so really just to note, oh, you're sharing the wrong of the two screens, but I'll carry on. It's really just to provide when the slides are shared, and or you can go and find on our website those tools. So Heston in the Loop report, all about that in great detail. A toolkit that is available with free downloadable assets and guidance for anyone to be able to deliver a similar type of project. We have a report on the Cali that you've heard all about today coming very soon, which keep an eye on our website. It will be hosted there in the next month or so. And then we have a High Streets Beyond Waste program case study that is on the website, and because I mentioned that project as well. And then the final point is that for anyone who's looking for any tailored support and advice for projects of this nature, then please do get in touch, and we do work with people on an ad hoc basis.
Okay, great, thank you. So I don't know if there's a way of making that full screen somehow or bigger, because
let me just try it again. Sorry.
But one, I was going to say, because I just realised I didn't quite answer that funding question, but our funding now is a combination of trusts and foundations, services to corporates, things that we sell and offer to the public, events that we put on, and community fundraising. So we're trying to diversify our funding streams more and more to get it away from being reliant on, and the Public Health Board we do some health innovation projects with as well, but to get it away from relying on trusts and foundations. And that's going to be part of the Blueprints package, is what we've done around that and what we can share from our learning. So the opportunities, as I've said, do sign up to the expression of interest form if you're interested in hearing when the Blueprints package, templates package is ready and available for people to take, as to use franchise style to cherry pick from. And do let us know if you'd like to have a one-to-one exploration or support session around Community Hub or similar sort of permanent space, just exploring whether it might be relevant or whether, you know, where you are on the journey, helping you a little bit with that. And then finally, the Community Sustainability Support Network for England, which I am beyond excited about, because personally as a founder, I had no peer-to-peer network to support me. We had to create everything from scratch. Every template, every event was from scratch. But if someone could tell me that they've done a repair cafe with autistic teenagers and this is how they did it, that would save me so much time, and I would try that, you know. And if I can share with people how we did a community co-design day and how we set it out, someone else can use that, because there's not enough money and there's not enough volunteers. So I think the more of that sort of like actual practical template and case study sharing and impact data sharing we can do, and more collaboration on funding bids and delivery, the better. And the next slide, I think, is that it maybe? Or there you go. And then you've seen, we know about, I've talked about this repeatedly, very excited about it. And the next slide. There you go. So then there's the QR code again, which you can scan, and you've got my email there, parisa@greenerandcleaner.co.uk. Also, please do find me on LinkedIn and stay in touch. Brilliant. Thank you.
Thanks, Parisa and Sarah and Connor. And yeah, thank you all for joining today. We will share the recording later, and please do also publicise the opportunities and the resources that you heard about within your own networks. If you're a local authority that is working with community groups, if you are an interested person who knows of a group in your area, please do share this more widely as well, because there's some really interesting opportunities there for people. So with that, I will wish you all a happy afternoon, and yeah, hope to see you all again soon. Bye.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, guys. I'm going to run off, but if you want to send me any questions outstanding, I will put some answers together. Cheers.